So before I jump into this really quickly, there are a couple of ways that questions can make their way onto the ballot. One is by initiative petition, which some of them are, which means that voters go out and they sign their names to a petition. They say, hey, we want to make this law. And the other way is through the legislature. This particular question came through an act of the legislature. I'm going to read a quick summary about it, and I'll introduce our speakers, and then I will get out of the way and let them each talk. And they can do their best to persuade you either way. So 792, it helps if I have it to the right page on here. 792 is a state question. I'm just going to read a quick summary about this. So if 792 passes, basically it's going to repeal an article of the Constitution and replace it with another one, which talks about the laws governing alcohol. If the measure will go into effect, it will be 2 years before it goes into effect in October of 2018. So currently under Oklahoma law, liquor stores can sell full-strength, unrefrigerated beer, but they can't sell cold beer or chilled wine. Liquor stores can sell wine and spirits, but no other items. And grocery stores currently and convenience stores can sell cold, low-point beer, that's 3-2 beer, but not spirits, wine, or high-point beer. So this question would change the current laws to allow grocery and convenience and drug stores to sell cold, high-point beer and wine up to 8.99% alcohol by volume, and wine up to 15% alcohol by volume. So liquor stores would be allowed to sell now cold beer and any item that also may be purchased in a grocery or convenience store, except motor fuel. That's apparently very important. I always look at that. It's interesting. In limited amounts, but liquor or spirits are only still available in liquor stores. So this evening we have in the affirmative Alex Wines, who's the spokesperson for Yes on 792 campaign, and oh wait, I've got old information here, and my mind is just blank. Amy, there we go. Amy Hendrickson. Okay, Amy Hendrickson. I do apologize. I was just looking at something. Amy Hendrickson, who is with Edmund Wine. Yep. Okay, I remembered that part after my brain just went completely blank. So we'll start with the affirmative on each of these questions, and then to the negative. And so, Alex, you have 10 minutes.
Great. If it's okay, can I use the podium, and then when we get to the questions, I'll sit back down?
Of course. Let me get my stuff out of the way.
Sorry.
That's okay.
My name is Alex. I'm with the Yes on 792 campaign. And actually, I moved to Oklahoma about 8 years ago. And I love Oklahoma. I think the people here are great. There are wonderful opportunities for young professionals. Cost of living is amazing. It's just a great state. And so when I moved here, though, I got a lot of questions actually from Oklahomans asking me if I had culture shock. And my answer was always no. We're a forward-thinking community, and I think we have all the amenities that most big cities around the world have. So I'm proud to be sort of an adopted Oklahoman, and I've enjoyed my time here. One of the things that was very jarring when I first moved to Oklahoma was the state's beer and wine laws. And you know, I joked at the moment I realized it was the first time a six-pack of glass bottles exploded in my freezer at halftime of a Thunder game, because I was trying to cool the warm beer down real fast so it would be ready for my friends who were watching the game with me. But it is, if you're not from here, it's a very strange set of laws. It's clearly a relic of Prohibition. They have not been updated for almost 60 years. They impact selection, they impact cost, and they impact our economy. And so I'll talk a little more about that in a second. But when I heard about the 792 campaign, I was excited about it because, again, it was one of the very few things that I didn't like about Oklahoma when I moved here. And they were lucky enough or I was lucky enough, for them to allow me to come on board, and I've enjoyed talking to people about this issue. And just real quickly, I think we got the overview from Kendra, but what we're trying to do with State Question 792 is modernize our beer and wine laws, bring them into the 21st century, and at the core of it, that means putting cold, regular strength beer and wine in grocery stores and convenience stores. And there's a huge coalition of people who are in support of this. We've actually got over 60 businesses who are signed up participating in the Yes on 792 campaign. The vast majority of them are locally owned and operated, and that includes farmers who grow grapes, wineries, craft brewers, grocery stores and convenience stores of all sizes. We also now have over 5,000 people from all 77 counties who are signed up in support. There are a huge amount of people who are behind this effort. And when we talk about the businesses who are involved, the reason they've gotten on board with 792 is because they're listening to their customers and they're listening to consumers who are telling them they want these changes. And so why should you support 792? Well, if you're one of those consumers that I was just mentioning, so if you drink regular strength beer or wine, the benefits are probably pretty obvious and very direct. And I call them the 3 C's, but it's convenience, choice, and cost. So convenience, there's one-stop shopping. You can go to a grocery store, pick up your dinner, get a bottle of wine, get home to the family and the kids. We're all busy people. That makes your life just that much easier. Choice. There's going to be a better selection of beer and wine in Oklahoma if 792 passes. We know that there are businesses who choose not to sell their products in Oklahoma, either because they want them cold or because they don't like our outdated rules and regulations. They're going to come to the state, but there's also going to be greater competition between grocery stores and convenience stores and liquor stores. They're going to want to have the best products, the best selection, so there'll be greater choice. And then cost, again, more competition, lower costs. That's just economics. I think we all understand how that works. If you are not a consumer of beer and wine, and lots of people are not, there are still good reasons to support State Question 792. In fact, there may be more important reasons, and that is economic growth and job creation. So we know right now that we are stifling businesses like craft breweries and wineries because they cannot get their products to market. They don't have access to grocery stores and convenience stores. If you're a craft brewery, you can't sell your product cold, just the way it's intended to be. It's the way the consumers want to enjoy it. And we're just not giving them the room they need to grow. So State Question 792 will open up those markets to them, will allow them to continue to increase their growth, hire more people, and continue to prosper as companies. It's also going to keep money in the state. We've all heard about the Texas beer run, people leaving the state to buy either full-strength beer, cold beer, or cheaper products. Wine is a lot more expensive in Oklahoma than in most of our neighboring states, and so sometimes people travel out of state to get cheaper wine. But every time they do that, that's money that goes to a Texas business or a Kansas business instead of an Oklahoma grocery store, convenience store, or liquor store. It's also tax revenue that's leaving the state, which ultimately hurts all of us. And then finally, when we modernize our laws, it's going to help us attract and retain a modern workforce. I think it is obvious and makes sense that young people who have a chance to go anywhere they want to be in states with modern laws, convenience, basically rules and regulations that cater to the 21st century audience and not the 1930s. So I think it will help attract and retain qualified young workers. So that's our side of the story on State Question 792. It's great for consumers, it's great for the economy. Amy's going to tell you her position in a minute. She's we're talking on behalf of the Retail Liquor Association, or a lobbying group that represents some liquor stores. And I think it's fair, and we should all understand where they're coming from. liquor stores have benefited for a very long time from a protectionist system that has given them a monopoly on 3 products, and that's regular strength beer, wine, and liquor. And it is an uncomfortable idea for them to surrender the monopoly on 2 of those products, wine and regular strength beer, although they are retaining their exclusive rights on liquor. But the fact that it's uncomfortable for them is not a good reason to force Oklahoma to stick with a prohibition-era system that has not been updated in almost 60 years and does not serve the state well. 792 is not about putting liquor stores out of business. In fact, I don't think it will, but it is about asking them to compete. And the good thing is that State Question 792, the good thing for a liquor store, gives them the tools that they need to compete. It gives them longer hours of operation. It allows them to sell the most popular brands of beer. So today liquor stores can't sell domestic products like Bud, Miller, or Coors. Well, those brands make up 80% of all beer sales in Oklahoma. They'll be able to sell them after 792 passes. They'll be able to sell non-alcoholic items like mixers and corkscrews and glasses and the other things people get when they want to buy wine or beer or liquor. And it also allows them to sell cold beer, which is something that liquor store customers have been asking for years. So it allows liquor stores to better serve their consumers, and a good liquor store that works to develop a loyal clientele and an extensive selection of products that won't be available at grocery stores or convenience stores or the big box stores they talk about is going to grow, and it's going to thrive under 792 because it's going to be able to better serve its customers. And at the end of the day, that's what it's about. It's about better serving the people of Oklahoma, giving them the things that they've asked for years, and in the process, benefiting consumers and moving our economy forward. So if you have more questions about this, well, obviously we're going to be able to answer some of them, but yeson792.com is our website. You can get more information there. We have t-shirts in the back. I invite you to take one. I'm quite sure we have enough for everyone. And and with that, I will stop and give Amy her chance here.
Okay, I'm going to do a better introduction of you because I realized on my notes page there was a typo and it said it had your name spelled wrong, and that's why I looked so befuddled because I looked over there and I was like, wait, what it says in front of me, it's not computing. So Amy Hendrickson, there we go, who's the manager of Edmund Wines, is going to be speaking now on 792. Thank you.
Can everyone hear me okay? Okay. So yes, my name is Amy Hendrickson, and I'm representing the No on State Question 792. I am a retail manager and certified sommelier at a business called Edmund Wine Shop. We're located right here in Edmond at 15th and Boulevard. Our business has been serving the Edmond community and surrounding areas for over 40 years. And for my part, I've been with the business for the last 18. I think I understand a thing or two about how retail business works in Oklahoma, but I also have an understanding of how our partners in this industry will either benefit or not benefit under the passage of State Question 792. But before I get into all of that, I think it's important to talk briefly about the history. How did we get to this place? How did this happen? So we repealed Prohibition in 1959, and we were the second to the last state to do so. And what we did in that moment was write our laws into the Constitution. And the reason being was J. Howard Edmondson did not believe that out-of-state entities had any business working in Oklahoma. And what I mean by that is they wanted our industry to be local and transparent. So as businesses, we have not ever had the opportunity to create our models as LLC or corporation type licensing. So we are completely transparent. You know exactly who owns the store. In order to have the license, you had to have been a resident of the state for at least 10 years. So they set us up in 1959 to be a predominantly local industry. So fast forward to 2011. This was the first time in our history that wine and grocery was proposed at the legislative level. 2011. You're hearing that we've waited over 50 years to modernize our laws, but it simply isn't true. It's only been in the last 5 years that it's even been something considered. And at that time, there was a 21-member task force created that was made up of members in the industry, so retailers, wholesalers, wineries, breweries, the ABLE Commission, the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse, local law enforcement, and consumers, in addition legislators, of course. And this coalition of people met 2 times, and after the second meeting, the motion was made to disband this group. And this motion was made by legislators and not by anyone in the industry. If you go back and look at the transcripts of this time, you'll see that the representative from the Retail Association was supportive of this idea of modernization. We were not opposing at that time. If anything, we were neutral, but we were not standing in the way of what was going on. There was a poll released at that time that said that Oklahomans did not support wine and grocery, which led to this motion. So to put it on retail stores is not based on historical fact. So now here we are in 2014, and Senator Bice proposes legislation for cold beer in liquor stores. And this is a piece of legislation that can be changed by statute. It does not require a change of the Constitution in order to have this happen. But the entities who opposed cold beer in liquor stores were convenience stores and grocery stores who did not want us to have that opportunity. I think what happened at that point was the conversation really started opening up. People wanted cold beer for sure. But then the conversation grew to wine and grocery. And it went from being a simple change to a very complicated change, because there are a lot of moving parts in our industry. To say that it's just retailers who stand in the way of what's happening is simply not true. Their 792, the Yes campaign will tell you that there's a huge coalition of people who support this version of modernization. But we don't believe that it is the best kind of modernization for Oklahoma. And the reason that I say that is his coalition includes 5,000 consumers. Retail stores floated their own initiative petition that actually we thought would help us better compete with grocery stores. And just in Edmond alone, I managed the collection of 4,000 signatures who did not support 792 and actually supported a more moderate way of changing our laws. And I've talked about all these moving parts, and that is the retail liquor store industry, if you will. There's almost 700 locally owned stores in the retail liquor side. There are wholesalers, there are breweries, there are wineries. There are distributors who work with wineries. They are the direct representatives of wineries in Oklahoma. And all of these companies are local companies, and all have a stake in 792. So Alex tells you about convenience, choice, and cost, and how all these things will be positives if we vote yes on State Question 792. Convenience, yes, but what is the price of that convenience? The choice. You'll have lots of choices for wine, strong beer. You'll only be able to buy liquor in retail liquor stores. But this is not us selling tennis shoes. This is alcohol. So people who buy alcohol are not suddenly inspired to buy more alcohol because it's available in more places. People will shop where it's most convenient. And State Question 792, in our opinion, makes it entirely more convenient to shop in one place rather than another. And so today, we saw the funding for Yes on 792. There's 92% of the funding, that's $1.5 million, was contributed by Walmart. $500,000 was contributed for local TV ads. The Oklahoma City Chamber donated $100,000. There's a lot of money fueling this campaign that people don't realize. There is a long-term goal. It's not just wine and grocery near term. This is a long-term goal. We expect that as our numbers dwindle at the retail level and distributor wholesale level, Walmart gets a better grasp on our industry. They're looking for spirits. They want to sell Jack Daniels in their stores. And this is the first step in a long-term goal. So, Oklahoma wineries and breweries are listed as 2 local companies that will benefit with this change. Oklahoma wineries already have the benefit of Sunday sales. They can ship their wines out of state. They don't have any limits on non-alcohol items in their wineries. And the passage of 792 really affords them no other benefits other than a revolving fund of $350,000 for research. We don't really know what the fund is for exactly, but it's there. And there's no kind of funding that I can see for the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse. Local breweries will have the right to self-distribute. We are changing the entire distribution model for Oklahoma for one set of a very small part of our industry. Retail liquor stores will not be able to be open the same hours and days as grocery stores. We can sell non-alcohol items, but we can only sell it in limited amounts, only 20% of our monthly gross. There's no other state around us that allows these sales that has this kind of limitation. So when I look at my store set and I think I might lose 30% of my most popular brands, I can't make that back with 20% non-alcohol items. And the argument is, well, you have liquor, and grocery stores don't have liquor. But when you look at retail liquor stores, my store, I have 4,000 items in my store. A grocery store has 100,000 items before they even get wine. They crush us in just volume before we even move to a different system. How do I make that back? Is the question. And this just goes on and on. There's so many things to talk about here. We haven't even gotten into the conversation about enforcement. How do we enforce 4,000 more outlets? There's language for licensing, but there's no real language to define how we're going to enforce these laws. So, I hope you'll have lots of questions, because there are lots of losers in this conversation. I think the biggest losers will be consumers. Prices will go up, they won't go down. And there are reasons for that. Please ask me when we get to questions. The entire rest of the industry. Local wineries and breweries will have a few gains, but for the entire rest of the industry, we will suffer. And ultimately, Oklahoma as a state, you're hearing that this will be great for our economy, but we don't believe this is true, and I'd love to expand on that if there's more time. So I'm asking for you to vote no on 792. A rewrite is always better than the first draft, and this is really what we're looking at now. So stand with local businesses, keep money in Oklahoma, and please vote no. We all deserve a better law.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. So, everything totally clear for everybody now? Yeah? All right. That's the thing about these questions, you know, we did, and I'm really glad that we're able to work with the American Democracy Project tonight to do this. You know, we came into, when we did our series of forums, thinking I totally knew on 3/4 of the questions, right, where I was, and then you start to dig a little deeper. So that's why we want to open it up to questions. Only thing I ask ever in these sort of settings is please to be respectful to each other, give both sides a chance to answer, and if it feels like the need for rebuttal, we've got time for that. So, questions? Yes?
I have two, actually. So the first one is, Amy, when you were talking about this group that had gotten together to talk about the reform back in whenever that was, and that they disbanded, you kind of intimated there was a reason, but you didn't actually say what it was.
So my understanding, going back and reading the transcripts, was there was a really good conversation about how we could upgrade our laws, but because it's all locked into the Constitution, and because there's so many moving parts to it, there are a lot of opinions on how we should move forward. And it's hard to get a lot of people with different opinions together in one room. But I do think that one of the things that maybe changed their minds was the polling that showed that Oklahomans did not support wine and grocery. And the other part of it is, I think initially it seemed like a good idea, but then once they started talking about it and all of these parts that would need to change, they decided to disband. But I do think that since that time, they've been working towards what we have now.
Well, I don't actually know the history of that commission or group, but the polling right now is very strong, showing that consumers do want wine in grocery stores. And quite frankly, the reason this happened is because businesses were listening to what their consumers wanted. You know, craft brewers are hearing from their consumers, we want your product cold. Wineries are hearing, we want your product in grocery stores. Grocery stores and convenience stores are hearing, we want to be able to buy wine and regular strength beer and buy it cold. And so those businesses responded and came together to push for this change, and legislators were hearing from their constituents who were pushing very hard for this change too. So, you know, I think it's been a quickly rising tide for the last several years, because people looked around at the states around us and realized Oklahoma is a decade, if not more, behind our neighbors, and it's inconvenient. It's bad for consumers, it's bad for selection, choice, and cost, and it's bad for our economy. So we're hopefully going to get change starting next Tuesday.